All right, all right. Good evening, family. So happy to
Got it.
see everybody. Can you see my screen still? Want to make
Yes.
sure that's visible. Okay, perfect. Good stuff. So welcome, world. Welcome, Unity Fellowship Church of Columbia. We are having our spiritual development and Bible study class this evening. My name is Minister Cole Terrence Randolph Williams. I'm so grateful to be here with you today. So just real quick, want to let you know you can find us here every Tuesday. If you would like to jump on in the Zoom room, you could do so by taking a note of our Zoom meeting ID. We get on here about 7:30, so we can just check in with each other and have some nice little fellowship and lift up each other in prayer before we go live. But certainly every Tuesday, right here, you'll find us on the Columbia Project. And then on Sundays, you'll find us also Columbia Project as well as Facebook Live. So we would love for you to come back and see us on Sundays at 12:30. Certainly, we want you to like us, subscribe to us. We are growing and want you to continue to be a part of this growing ministry. So there are all the links there. You can take a screenshot and you'll see it in the description as well. If you happen to be in Maryland, certainly come on by, come on through so we can physically love on you right here in Towson, Maryland, 120 Allegheny Avenue, and look forward to seeing you. All right, all right. So tonight, family, we are going to be looking at the book of Luke, Luke 24, 13, 35. And I got little giggles because I was like, oh, shoot, Spirit brought this one back to me. I'd actually preached on this about, I think it was like 2020, I think it was. So it was just amazing how Spirit was giving me these downloads like anew, but also reminded me of some things that even back then was like, oh my God, it's so rich, so good. So I'm just grateful to share with you. But my theme for the topic is what's next. And so my goal, for tonight is really to have you think about, of course, listening to me, but think about what you're listening to and certainly ask yourself this question. Okay, well, what's next? Trusty Marlene, what's next? Sister Karen, right? So yeah, this is going to be our topic for tonight. All right, so I'm going to read us through the text. This is coming from the Egalitarian Inclusive Bible, whatever version you may have at home, but I'll just go ahead and breeze us through it. Excuse me. And so we're starting with verse 13. It says, on the same day, two of the disciples were making their way to a village called Emmaus, which was about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they were discussing all that had happened as they went, right? And so while they were discussing these things, Jesus had approached them and began to walk along with them. And though they were kept from recognizing Jesus, who asked them, what are you two discussing as you go your way? They stopped and looked sad. And one of them, Cleopas, whose name I love wholeheartedly, Cleo, he had asked them, are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who doesn't know the things that have happened these past few days? And Jesus said to them, what things? They said, about Jesus of Nazareth, a prophet, powerful in word and deed in the eyes of God and all the people. How our chief priests and leaders delivered him up to be condemned to death and crucified him. Oh yeah, I'm gonna read this with some inflection for you, okay? Verse 21. So we were hoping, they said, that he was the one who would set Israel free. Besides all this, today, the third day since these things happened, some women of our group have just, they were at the tomb before dawn and didn't find the body. They returned and informed us that they had seen a vision of angels. They're like, some of these women, they're seeing visions and angels and things, and they declared that Jesus was alive. And some of our number went to the tomb and found it to be just as the women said. Go figure. They didn't find Jesus. And then Jesus said to them, what little sense you have, how slow you are to believe all that the prophets have announced. Verse 26, Jesus is still schooling on them. Didn't the Messiah have to undergo all this to enter into glory? Then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, Jesus interpreted for them every passage of scripture which referred to the Messiah. I just love this visual. Like he's through the whole trip, he's like breaking it down. line by line scripture, helping them out to remember, right? By now they were near the village and they were going to, excuse me. And Jesus appeared to be going further. Okay. And they were like eager, right? They were eagerly like, no, stay with us. It's nearly evening. The day is practically over, right? And so the Savior went in and stayed with them. And after sitting down with them to eat, this is the part that I got happy about, because I was like, oh, this is the part I got happy about when I preached this thing. Jesus took bread, said the blessing, then broke the bread and began to distribute it to them. And with that, their eyes were opened and they recognized Jesus, who immediately vanished from their sight. I also love that part because it's like, poof, be gone. I thought that was just really funny. Then all of a sudden, he's just like, yep, I'm out. Okay, so let's keep it moving. So 32 says, they said to one another, weren't our hearts burning inside of us as this one talked to us on the road and explained the scriptures to us? This piece right here is pretty key. And I like this so much, right? It just, oh my. So again, you're hearing me, and I want you to think about that question that I said about what next, right? That I will also like us to take on is that, how can we see ourselves in this scenario, right? In this situation, right? So this piece about weren't our hearts burning inside of us, it just, I don't know, it really touched me to think about it myself, right? Now, let's see. Got you. Thank you so much, DC. I got that. They got up immediately and returned to Jerusalem, right? Where they found the 11 and the rest of the company assembled. And they were greeted with, Christ has risen. It's true. Jesus has appeared to Simon. And then the travelers recounted, even this part, they recounted, right? What had happened on the road and how they had come to know Jesus in the breaking of the bread. All right. So let's get into it. So this is just a little, concept that I wanted to share in terms of what I when I was studying and research. This is on the right. That's Luke 2023 version. Okay. And let's give you a little visual there. All right. So the author, okay, from what I discovered, is said to be Luke. And also he has the name of Lucas, is what I found, what I was reading from this source here. And it says Lucas in Philemon. It's the same. It's in the Bible. It's a thing. Is between Titus and Hebrew, for those of you who want to go check it out, because I had to. Is the same with Luke the evangelist, right? He's considered the beloved physician. Constant companion of Apostle Paul, wrote a book called Acts of the Apostles. So he, the author Luke of Colossians and Philemon is the same author as Acts and Luke's gospel, this gospel, okay? So they all have this same theological, all right? And so then that is here to unpack it a little bit more, is that there's a theme, if you will, themes of history and poetry. It talked about how Jesus, he's in the way that Luke is wanting to demonstrate Jesus through his writings, is that Jesus is a friend of the outcast, right? And then as far as Luke by his profession, he's a physician, he's a doctor, and that was said to be considered as gentle Dr. Luke. Thank you, Pastor. Look at that shout out. Scholars often call Luke and Acts Luke Acts. Nice. Didn't know. I love that. All right. So keep that also here in this understanding of Luke. I love it. And so it says here that, he's a writer for the Gentiles. Luke is, right? He's a writer for the Gentiles with a concern for the sick. Yes. Yep. And so Jesus is meeting people where they are, right? As we understand Jesus to do, with no social boundaries. And so I'm just saying this to say this is like to be considered like the overall theme of how also the way that Luke is writing in his gospel, right? and that it's relevant to people of all boundaries. And what I wanted us to look at is how we can apply that to us in terms of the way that, he writes, the scriptures, how he wrote the scriptures for our benefit today, and that we have this lens for it to be applied and relevant to people of all backgrounds, particularly for those individuals seen as society's relevant, right? So we want to be able to see that for us and to say, yes, I also want to apply the scriptures to those, to all people, right? To those of any background and any, with no social boundaries. That's the point I'm trying to make. Sorry. Okay. So now let's look at some more in terms of concept about Luke, which I thought was really, really cool, because here we've got the definition of Luke by his name, right? In terms of interpretation of what his name means. And so what I found was both Greek and okay. So at the end of the day, let's get to it. Greek, right? His name, catch that. His name means luminous. That's pretty cool. His name means luminous. Light giving, right? Yes, enlightening and instructing. So for me, again, it's just like I'm looking at the way, again, in the themes of how he's writing, and then, what's the benefit? What's good for me is that, hopefully this will be in a way that I can be enlightened, right? I'll be getting some instruction, and how I just think it's all like, connected to what his name means, and the way that, I'm going to unpack this with, the way that I took some revelation from the scripture, this particular passage. And so from a metaphysical piece, right, it says that his name means the luminous presence from within. So it's still connected, right? Even from that Greek definition about his name, where his name means luminous, it says that the luminous presence from within. It also talked about enlightening, right? It said enlightening ideas. It says new mental qualities taking place out of old ideas. Old mental qualities are dropped or let go. And for me, I guess I try to unpack this in a way where I can kind of relate it to understand it and see this from that lens. So, sharing this with you in terms of like, okay, think about where, Jesus is like having to remind the disciples about the scriptures, right? Like the whole trip, he's like giving it back to them, reminding them and breaking it down. And it's like they have this and I get it, they have, obviously they're like, don't you know, didn't you hear, are you the only person going to Jerusalem doesn't know what's going on? So they're walking from their experience, right? They're walking from their truth and their understanding, and that from their mindset of, well, they thought he was going to be the one that was going to save Israel, right? So that was where I was trying to connect this piece in terms of some old ideas, some old mentalities that, little do they know they're fixing to get, some enlightenment, right? Some new mental ideas from this experience that they're going to have when they arrive on the scene at the point of sitting down with Jesus, right? So this is like, well, wait, there's more. It gets really good. Okay, and so then it talks about intelligence that keeps the body well. And I thought this was still like also divinely connected, right? So now we understand that Luke, right, by his name means luminous, light-giving, enlightening, instructing, right? We get it from the Greek and metaphysical. Check this out, guys. From metaphysical, they were talking about his position, right? He's a physician, okay? So here, it's where we're just going to take, if this is our awareness, we're just going to tilt it just a little bit, right? Okay, just a little dial switch. And it's talking about him being a physician, where it says his actions through his writings, instruction carries a healing message to all parts of the body. And in this regard, so our body, right, is going to be not only, like as we understand, like he's a physician, he's a doctor, he's, like I said, remember earlier, he talked about him being a gentle doctor, you know what I'm saying? So that's, he's embodying what he is connecting to in terms of his faith, following after how Jesus is connecting to people of all, with no social boundaries, no boundaries, like, relevant to all. That's not only a healing message in his writings, but also from a physical standpoint, right? He's carrying this message to all. And then the outside of the physical is a metaphysical, because we are the body. That's what I was trying to get to, right? So he's carrying the message to all who are in all, made by all, and that all is going to be God, right? So it's healing the physical body through the spiritual, okay? That body, like I said, is representing all of us. We are all connected, right? I didn't talk about that just this past Sunday, that we are all connected, right? So I don't want us to shy away from being willing to lend our higher faculties to understanding this, what I'm sharing with you, and that we can see that we are not only all connected, all parts of our body being connected, right? Needing healing in a physical sense, but also from a spiritual standpoint, and that the body represents us spiritually. Okay, that's what I was trying to say, and that we are all connected. We are all one in that space. And so then talking about, again, from him being a physician, and in the writings, how the writings are like the instruments, okay, of care, right? And the message itself is an instrument of care. And so it says the healing message gets carried by spiritual illumination. So it goes back to what his name means, illumination, okay? And so we're going to now embrace this idea. We're going to embrace that it's a healing message that we get to receive and understand and adopt, that that's our call as well, is to carry the message, carry the spiritual illumination that's a broadcast out to the many, right? To the body, to also, like, if I see you, I have to see myself, right? If you see the person, wherever they are, you need to say that that's me, right? We're all one. That's the point. And so it talks about divine physical manifestation of love in action. I mean, sometimes I just get excited about, again, what we believe, because these things, they're not separated. It's all connected. And we just get to be affirmed in what we believe when we come to Tuesday night Bible study. So look at that example, right? I talked about how the term that they used was right thinking. And so I was just helping you to digest that and look at it as positive or harmonious thinking, right? So think about it in this way. If I'm coming from a space of positive, harmonious thinking, right? I think good, I think positive towards you, about you. Don't you think that that's going to translate into my actions, right? That's going to translate into me producing care for another. So we could be Luke. That's my point, right? We can practice this spiritual illumination. We may not have the name that means illumination. However, we today, like I said, let us look at it from how it can apply to us, and that we can practice this spiritual illumination, that we are all able to be practitioners. We are all able to demonstrate right thinking, positive, harmonious thinking, so that we can demonstrate love in action. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I hope you did too. Feel free to jump in if anybody has any questions, thoughts, ideas. Go for it.
Be the light.
Be the light, Trusty Marley.
Yeah.
Yup. Absolutely. And that light works, man. It works in a great, mighty way. So yeah, guys, I like my definition. So let's get into it. The part that I like I said, I got happy about as I read this scripture to share for tonight was the part of the process. So this is where, okay, some of my notes are off screen. So at the end of the day, because we're thinking about what next, right? So we know what happened, right? So we're going to think about, like I said, what next. So what next is we're going to put ourselves in this space. And for me, it's like, what next is about my life and what's happening, where if I'm walking and Jesus shows up and I get to this space, that this is a process that's happening. And first and foremost, there's bread, right? That's in this scenario, right? So we get to go in and look at what is the object? It's bread. Okay. So bread obviously represents a staple food. Its substance is something that nourishes us, right? I liked how it talked about it's the mixing, right? As the dry and the liquid ingredients. I mean, come on now, let the Holy Ghost download whatever you're gonna get off of this definition. Okay, because we are the spiritual, the physical, all the things, right? We may need a little kneading, a little shaping, a little baking, all of it. Okay, so universal substance is also part of this definition. I thought that was just way cool, so I got happy on that. Now listen, there's some taking that's happening, right? Didn't Jesus take it? Okay. So this is the other thing. This is like, for me, when I was like, looking at this, I like how we get to use again our imagination, our higher faculties God gave us. So I'm like, okay, so what they did, like they was walking 7 miles and then their shoes, and they say, hey, go put your, robe or your cloak over there. I'm gonna meet you in the kitchen. We're gonna finna sit down, I'm gonna set the table, like all of it, right? Okay. All we know is that in scene, bread breaking, taking, that's what's happening. Okay, so let's get to it. So Jesus takes the bread, okay? He takes the bread, and as we see here, the taking is a state of being taken, right? An act of a person or a thing that takes, capturing interest. I thought that was interesting, fetching, okay? So I'm like, for sure, my interest is captured in this moment, in this case, okay? But the cool thing too is you got to realize they don't even know it's Jesus. It's the setup, right? They're in this space. Right, this is happening, family, but they don't even know, okay? So watch it, right? So this is, like I said, I'm going to put it where this is us. This is us. We are right here. We don't walk. We don't sat down. We hungry. The day is done, okay? We got this thing. We are ready to eat. We need some nourishment. And yeah, there's, this whole process that happens. There's the taking process that happens. All right. Now, next, what happens after the taking? This is what Jesus does. God bless. Jesus blesses what has been taken, blesses this substance, blesses this mixture of the dry and the liquid. Okay. And blessing is a short prayer said, that can be done before or after a meal.
Yeah.
Held in veneration, revered. And I was like, wow, look at this right here, right? This part where it says promoting or contributing to happiness, well-being, prosperity. This is another, okay, so remember we were here and then we just did a little shift in the dial. Now we're going to do another little shift right here. So maybe we're about a 45-degree angle if we're doing this visual of like shift, okay? This piece right here in the blessing definition, I was like, wow, like this is a gift, okay? This is a treat that for Jesus to be blessing this substance, right? And so I said, put me in here. Jesus is blessing me. Jesus wants my happiness. Jesus wants my well-being. Jesus wants my prosperity. Family, you get to affirm yourself right here in just this definition. Like I said, allow this whole illumination. What was Luke? Illumination, okay?
Yes.
Allow Luke to illuminate us tonight, please, okay? Oh my gosh, so we get this blessing that's happening right here in the presence of the disciples at the table, okay? And so something else that I wanted to share with you that I found online, where it says the blessing over bread is a Jewish prayer. It's a thing. And look at the words, right? The verses of this prayer says, blessed are you, Lord, our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Again, it's just this posture of blessing the substance, the universal substance that has been provided, that has been given. And so I just thought that was a good mind shift for us to adopt that and affirm. So I hope moving forward, anytime you go get you a piece of bread, you go bless that thing or picture it, right? As what we're unpacking tonight. Okay, so now, oh man, this is the wave of the revelation of the illumination, okay, for me. And I'm trying to convey it through the camera for you. All right. Because it says he broke the bread. He broke the blessing. He broke the substance. Okay. And look in this definition, it says disruption, separation of parts. I don't know about you, but if I'm still the bread, I've been blessed over. And then I'm broken. Okay. I get disrupted, but it's for my highest and my greatest good. I'm being broken. I'm being disrupted. I'm being separated into many, right? And it's not just for me, but what's going to happen, you're going to see it next, is for the partaking of another. Child. Okay, so it says being released. I thought about my DC Renee because she talked about that, that Holy Spirit when Jesus had breathed, right? And it was for the releasing, right? Because she talked about now you need to go and do your part, right? And bringing it back to us, because again, this is all about, well, what next, right? I need you to see yourself in this so you can understand your position in that. Yeah, right. Like It's all for the good for you to be broken. It's good for this disruption to take place because it's for a divine purpose, right? It's for you to be released for publication, right? For displays, right? When you see the news, they say this just in, right? For breaking news, right? For something to be paid attention to, right? To be experienced, okay? So I just wanted to give you that type of imagery. And look, even here, right, as you can see that little picture right there, right? You see the broken concrete, but you see this that's coming forward, this flower, right? This bud, right? There's life that's coming up out of that broken ground. Somebody, if like Pastor say, touch your neighbor, say it's already done. Go ahead, touch yourself. Go and turn around, say it's already done. Be happy about it. Okay. So now this is the piece too. Like I said, this is what Jesus is doing. Like again, they don't even know. Okay. Jesus is like taking the bread. He, blesses the bread. He breaks it and he distributes it. He gives it out, family. So you want to understand your purpose. You want to understand it is for you to be given out, to be shared, right? This message of healing, right? That like I said, Jesus didn't have any respect of persons, right? We want to have that right thought, that right, thinking, so that we can take actions of care, things of that nature. So it could be given out, right? So that's the point, something to be modeled, right? This is where I'm trying to show you that what Jesus did, and I want to give credit where credit due. I think it was my deacon Paulette who would say, Jesus was the perfect model, right? It wasn't anything that Jesus didn't do that he didn't say that we couldn't do. So even in this is what I'm trying to say is show us an example of right here in this example, Jesus is showing us that, this is what we want to do for another, right? So let's keep it moving. So then what happens? They recognize immediately, right? Didn't it say they recognize, they acknowledge, right? Which I thought was beautiful that we understand by definition, it is to admit. So here's what's happening for us so far, 2023. We are growing. We are growing in grace. We are growing in knowledge. And we understand that this is a time for us to grow even further in our fellowship. So all I'm asking for you is to recognize where you are, right? So what's next, Minister Cole, is to recognize, right? To admit, to give space, to give room for your unfoldment, for your development, right? Your growth in your process of being blessed, being broken, right? And being shared, being released for promotion, okay? And so sometimes, especially in this space, in this walk of gaining and growing knowledge, right? Sometimes we got to know and know again, know and keep knowing, right? One thing is to learn, but to continue to learn, right? And so that's really, I think, what was happening at the end of the day, again, coming from where these disciples were. I mean, come on, man. They're, what they said, all the things that Jesus was. And they also was like, well, we thought he was going to be X, Y, Z. So they, had this knowledge of what they thought was going to happen, plus what just happened, right? He passed away. And they were sad, when Jesus asked, well, what happened? What's going on? And all those things. So all I'm saying is that we have a lived experience. Remember, I talked about the old mentality, right? We have our lived experience. We have that which is here for us to refer to, but we also get to have that enlightened. That's the cool piece, right? And we can have it right here in this moment, right? So we get to know and know again, and we get to accept that and be aware of it, right? Get to recognize, because in that moment, it said that they were like, oh, snap, it's Jesus, okay? And then this piece, I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. So then I laughed because immediately, right? It says immediately, Jesus left. He vanished, right? He ceased to be visible. He disappeared. And I think for me in that space, excuse me, it wasn't just that he vanished, but it helped me to say, okay, so don't I know that as I'm going through this process of knowledge and growing and the ways that I need to recognize that I'm not only with divine, but with each other, like, we're all connected. I get this awareness. I acknowledge that. And, I have to have this faith that Jesus said, never leave you nor forsake you, right? So that part about ceasing to be visible, right? Sometimes some things are right here. They're tangible. They're right in front of me. And even if they're not there, right? Like, oh man, look at how spirit's connected, right? Sister Karen had talked about it earlier when she checked in. Still doesn't mean that, things aren't working on our behalf. Things are, God is not a sometime God, right? So it doesn't mean that things aren't still happening on our behalf. So it just, with that piece where it says cease to be visible, disappeared, I get it. It was a literal, right? Because they were like, oh shoot, it's Stephen.
Right.
But also, like I said, I wanted us to invite spirit to download our faculty consciousness, higher consciousness from a physical and spiritual standpoint, that we can say, okay, yeah, sometimes things aren't as we saw them right in the moment, but yet still we can allow our minds to accept that there's still, things working for our highest and our greatest good. And so just by definition, it says, to pass out of sight, right? Visually, physically speaking, we get it. And it said quickly. All right. So this is where I just wanted to bring us back to the text, because I had talked a lot. So I just wanted to give room if anybody, had anything they want to add, bring into the space. Please, there's no right or wrong. And I want you to be intentional about tapping into anything that Spirit just gave you to share in this space. So just reflect here as I kind of expounded more on the the verses, the 30, and also for the next year at the end, I'll get to that. But if anybody has anything that came up for them that they want to share. All right, no worries, man. Okay, so let's keep it moving. I love y'all so much. So this piece right here where it says, so they said to one another, weren't our hearts burning inside of us? This one that talked to us on the road and explained the scriptures to us. So the reason why I highlighted that, because remember I talked about the spiritual illumination. I think that it's already something that's part of us, right? Sometimes we may think that it's something we have to get sure, right? It could be levels to it at the end of the day. But it's almost like they had this inner knowing, or maybe they just checked in with themselves. So again, trying to paint the picture of us, like seeing ourselves in life, and that in this process, like as they were walking along, coming from their old or their present lived experience, and they're just explaining, what's going on in life as is. And Jesus, is talking to them, but they don't even know it's Jesus. Is not until this moment that they go through this process of the taking, the blessing, the breaking, the distribution, and all that. And that they have this awareness, right? That they recognize that connection, they recognize that relationship, they recognize the love. And so from there, Jesus vanished. But it doesn't mean that the process didn't happen. It doesn't mean that the journey, the lived experience wasn't real, right? And so that's something that I think I wanted us to have just some reference to, in terms of, you get to check in with self. You get to say the question, well, what's next, right? Well, dang, Jesus just rolled out, he just vanished just like that. You get to check when things just shift and change, and say, well, shucks, did I have a knowing about my connection to the divine? Did I have this burning desire within me doing this process, doing this journey? And to me, that's a form of focused awareness, in my opinion, right? You get to take, that self-reflection, that self-inventory that I heard some people mention about. Because family, I don't want you to forget. And the reason why I don't want you to forget, because it's, again, not just for you, but it's for those that you are being shared for, right? That you're supposed to share your testimony, your lived experience, your journey. That all matters, okay? So then now this piece right here, let's come down to verse 34, right? Where it says, they were greeted with Christ has risen. It's true, it says, right? Exclamation point. Jesus has appeared to Simon. And this piece right here for me was just the confirmation, okay? Metaphysically speaking, Christ has different definitions for real. And the one I think I want to just give to you in terms of something that could be more digestible, in terms of like the name Christ, right? Is basically saying that Christ is the, let's see where I have it off my notes here. It's basically talking about the empowerment of the truth, right? So it kind of goes back to, and I know you've heard pastors say, like, you need to know what you know, right? So it talks about, it's basically saying like you come to a state of awareness about your faith that really is not even something that no one can question, but it also lends to there was some actual revelation, right? There was obviously, like I said, it goes back to the experience. There was an actual physical manifestation of the physical experience that happened. Like Jesus to them visually, physically appeared in their sight, right? Just like they had talked about, Jesus had showed up or was revealed to those who had came to see him, or like after the disciples, the 11, right? And so it talks about here that it says Jesus had appeared to Simon. I spoke about this before. I don't know if you remember, but Simon, Peter being, representing, like, in a sense of metaphysics, that he represents faith, and not just any kind of faith, like rock solid faith, right? So looking back, if you look at these words where it says Christ has risen, it's true. It's like they're affirming themselves. They're confirming, like, it's not only true in sense of just a theory or an idea or just even a knowing, but it's like their faith has been proven, like, because Jesus actually showed up and revealed themselves, right? So it's like that extra rock solid. So it goes back to you. This is all I'm trying to get to, my point. It goes back to you in terms of your faith, your rock solid, whatever that experience is, like, right, what your journey looked like. That there was something to where Christ showed up that allows you to say, it's true. Christ rose in me. That illumination, that revelation occurred in me. It's true. It was revealed. Christ appeared to me, and it appeared to me in a way that my faith is rock solid. And this is what happens. Look at 34. It says they were greeted. So they didn't even get a chance to even say what had happened. This is how I interpret. They didn't get a chance to, say by the time they come up to go see the 11, right? It says that they were greeted with this greeting, right? So this is where too that illumination takes place, to where it just overflows and it just bursts out, that you're like, no, this thing is real. I promise you, right? That you're sharing the good news, that you're sharing that, the truth, the risen Christ has risen inside of you. It's true. It has appeared to you in whatever way that has shown up and been revealed to you. So that's just something that to you, that I wanted you to feel empowered by it, was my goal on that. And again, however you arrived in your journey, right? Whatever that looks like, you get to recount that, you get to relate to that, you get to share that piece. And just as they did, you get to recognize that Jesus came, as it says here at the end, they came to know Jesus in the breaking of the bread. So whatever your breaking of the bread experience was, however you arrived to come to know Jesus, can't nobody take that away from you. And I need to, so now that has happened, yes, talk to me.
When one of the I have to check my unconscious bias when I'm reading stuff like this, because the first thing my mind says is, good and well, you wouldn't have believed that yourself. You ain't nowhere in the world. But there are certain mannerisms of people. And I don't think it was the breaking of the bread. I think it was the way in which, he spoke about it, the way in which he did it. It revealed to them who he was. Because if you've been around someone, say, like, for 3 years consistently, you're sharing meals with them, you're walking with them for 3 years, you guys are just like almost like this is your tribe, right? You know each other.
Yep.
We're kind of like best friends. I know your mannerisms. I know I got a best friend. You better not put her food better not touch, or she ain't going to eat it. And in my mind, it's all going down the same way. So it don't matter. It can touch all day long. I'm the
same way.
Food, right? And so if something would have happened where, something would have happened to her, and then somebody would have told me, well, I saw Shaka the other day, I wouldn't have believed it either, until maybe sitting down at a restaurant and somebody comes over and sits beside me, and the way in which they order their meal, the instructions that they give about how the meal has to be prepared, their mannerisms with regards to how they're sitting next to me, it's going to come back to my mind. Oh my God, this is just like my best friend.
Right.
So I think there were some things that you know, the mannerisms in the breaking of the bread, especially going back to the Last Supper and blessing everything. They had fresh information, and then it all comes together. It's kind of like, didn't this man just break bread with us the other day?
Right.
In the exact same way.
Yeah. Sounded the same.
And once you start putting pieces together and believing,
right,
then you can see things more clearly.
Yes.
So that's how I look at that. But I gotta check my unconscious.
I love it.
Because when I'm reading all of this, I'm like, they were all delusional and crazy, because ain't no way in the world. I ain't telling nobody I seen no ghosts. I ain't telling nobody I talked to no ghosts. I'm not
until the ghost stop.
Y'all not locking me in.
That reminded you of you sitting with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, and I think that's exactly, like part of that point of the connection, like you said, the relationship that they had, like you said, those mannerisms and of it all, right? That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
Yeah. I got you. 100%. All the things. Who else got something to say on this piece? Because I'm ready to move us on. Please share. All right. So then let's just, take a closer look real quick. Like I've already talked about these things. Again, what I need you to do right now is ask yourself, what next, right? So even with if you were in this scenario, all the things that just happened, you're like, okay, I remember you. This is what happened. I miss you. I love you. Whatever. All the things is what I'm saying. What next? What's next for you? Okay. And this is where I just wanted us to say, like I said, what's happening in our lives. If we could take some inventory of ourselves, where are we taking stock of our season, our moment today, right? And what's going on for us. So these are just things that kind of pulled out from me as far as us, look, we're growing, we've been growing, and, God is doing some great things in our lives as a ministry, as individuals. Okay. We're focused on growing in knowledge, right? Again, fellowship. Where are we, right? We are all on our individual roads, our own paths, our own journeys, right? Just like the disciples traveling, getting from, going to someplace, right? Going somewhere. What's happening? Like I said, there's, some mental qualities that are taking place from some old ideas, old concepts. Like you said, you could be, like you said, skeptical at the end of the day, however that looks, side and not get it 100. But also, like I said, to just introduce what I would like for us to be willing to consider in terms of a process that we get to immediately embrace illumination. Okay. So there's some illumination that's happening to us, even as we recognize some things that we are skeptical about. And, not that is any of that being a bad thing, but it's just from our human nature, our natural humanness, right? I don't even know if humanness is a thing, but whatever. We get to be human is the point, okay? And also we get to embrace both our human and divine, right? That spiritual aspect of our lives that, just as they question, we get to do that. We get to question, right? Is it that we can have a higher level of understanding? Absolutely, it's possible. And so we get to recognize our relationship, right? Through the divine, through the love, the way that love shows up with us, reminds us that, hey, that love was with you before, like Jesus, before I even left was when we sat down and we broke bread together. Like you said, DC Renee, the Last Supper, and we had it together. Yep. So these are the things that I wanted us to think about in terms of what's next for you. So think about, beating the horse here, your journey, your process. Think about your moment of awareness, right? Think about your wonder, your experience, okay? Think about what you need. This is just going back to, again, family, I want you to see that You know, when you are getting some nuggets, some spiritual downloads, it's not stuff coming from left field all the way here, you know, right over there in the corner. The things that we talk about here on Tuesdays, and the way that you need to go back, if you're, you know, already doing it, is to say, how is it speaking to me when I'm at home by myself, showing up in my life, right? When Pastor talked about what do you need, right? Hopefully these are things that you're still enjoying on. We're going to add that and say, well, what's next, right? Because we are, you know, growing in knowledge. So remember, like Luke, right? We get to be practitioners, right? We get to, you know, bring that message of healing to others, but also definitely to ourselves. So hopefully these are things that you're thinking about for yourself as far as what's next. Now, what I want you to talk about, right? Because remember, love in action, this thing ain't just for you, is talk about how you are empowered by your journey, right? Share that thing, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, but hopefully you arrive to a space of empowerment, right? I am who I am because God made me, right? Unique, fearlessly, wonderfully made, all the things, right? On display for promotion. Yes, highest and greatest good. Share what it looked like, okay? If it was snot nose, boogies, and ugly, you know, share that thing. And how it's still looking. Hopefully we got definitely heard already gratefulness and testimonies and how somebody else can learn from that. And recount what happened on your road of your journey, on your experience. Recognize how you came, right, to know Jesus in your breaking of the bread moment. Talk about any disruption and separation of the parts and being released for publication. Recognize how before the breaking, right, how you were blessed. Remember that definition, you were blessed and held in veneration and revered and prayed over and promoted, as I talked about. So these are the things that you want to start to take on and how you're going to show up in this world. Talk about actual blessing. It's a Jewish prayer. Blessing of the bread is a thing. Just wanted to share that with you. In closing, I don't have anything else. So this is the moment where we do our takeaways. I'll certainly pass it over to our pastor to close us out. But for those of you who are watching, again, thank you so much. We appreciate your presence. Please definitely join us live. Same time, same bat channel. Come next week. Show up on Sundays as well. And so all the things that you can see on the screen, if you are so kind, we really would appreciate your donation because that's how we continue to spread this love in action. So we appreciate every gift. So freely you give, freely you will receive as well. So I'm going to pass it over to anyone who wants to just give 2 seconds of anything that was downloaded into your spirit. I'd like you to do that. It's about 10 of us, so 9 of us out, excluding myself. Go ahead and take a second to unmute and give a quick share. For this is what I'm saying. You're going to talk about it, right? So share for those that are watching us what your takeaways are.
Illumination should bring about revelation and then expectation. I think that's where I'm going at, because once I am illuminated, once Christ gives me something that is revealing, then that revelation is going to come with a sense of expectancy, because it has now been revealed. And because I am receiving it and it's being revealed, I am expecting it to happen. So illumination, revelation, expectation brings about gratification. How about that?
I like it. I like it a lot. That's sweet. Thank you so much, DC Renee. Okay, come on. Next person, 2 seconds. Shout it out.
Mine is be the light, walk in the light, like the hymn. Walk in the light.
Yeah.
So is that end to
Love it.
So yep.
Come on, JB. For those of you watching at home, that's our brother Jordan. He's deep. I love it. He's a beautiful soul. All right. Thank you so much. Who's next? Come on now. 2 seconds. Let's go for the people, for the world.
Well, the disappearance, that was a new kind of revelation in the story, that after the breaking of the bread and then poof,
right,
disappeared. So Like, okay, well, out of sight is not out of mind. It's not out of mind, even though out of sight, which is how we live and know Jesus.
Yeah. I like that. Thank you so much. That's good stuff. All right, that's Marlena. Who's next? 2 seconds. Share for the people. What's next? Minister Gladys, One Love, Deacon Paulette. What's next?
Great lesson, brother.
Thank you.
And the practice of spiritual illumination, you highlighted that we are all able to be practitioners. Not only are we able, but it is a call. It is a call for us to be such.
Yes.
To be a light, not only for the world around us, but for one another. So we are one.
Yes.
And God is light. The book tells us there's no darkness there.
Come on.
So in our growing, it is not only for ourself and personal development, but it is for the body.
That's beautiful.
We are one. Let us be practitioners of this illumination, spiritual illumination. And Christ came and met the need of those. He gave a little scolding, but he came and met the need of them. They sat down to break bread and told him, oh, stay.
Yeah.
And he didn't usurp himself. He could have. He sat, he blessed the bread, he gave it to him, but he had a mission and he left and he was on his mission.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that. But that illumination part, we are all called to be practitioners of the light, the spiritual light.
That's so good.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Come on. Thank you. This is what I'm hearing right here. Like I said, your spiritual download, whatever you got, I so appreciate it. And this is sharing out to the world. So thank you. Who's next? 2 seconds. Come on.
Well, for me, it was the idea that Jesus continued to walk with them and go through the scriptures again, even though they had already learned, known or heard of the stories. But he was patient, and still in the hereafter, he's walking and teaching through that path. Good. And then, the breaking of the bread to simply say, I am still feeding you. I'm still, that's what I get from that. It's like, I'm still feeding you, I'm still teaching you, I'm still giving. And now the responsibility is for you to continue with that vibration. So that's
my God. Come on, One Love. Folks, you don't know at home, that's One Love, okay? You heard that breakdown? Nice. Thanks so much. Thank you so much. The world appreciate you. All right. So then that means we got our 2 favorites, Minister Gladys. And I think Minister Renee's still on there. Oh, no, Ross too. We got 3. Come on. 2 seconds.
Well, for me, illumination has always been fascinating because we are the lights of the world.
Come on.
Us by being Christians, that is our calling.
Yeah.
And this is what draws people to Christ, is us.
Yes.
Through our life. So, and that's all I got.
I love it. Dang. You understood the assignment. I appreciate you so much. All right. Who's next? 2 seconds. Come on. Who I got? We got 2 left. Yes.
I put it in the chat. Minister Renee said she received a new understanding of what the breaking of bread was. And she said her wife wanted to let you know that this was one of the first Bible studies she's ever understood. So
God
they
bless.
said, way to go, Minister Cole.
Thank you, family. Thank you. It's the divine within. Absolutely. Thank you so much, God. Minister Renee and wife. Let's see. So that's you, Ross. Come on, close us out, baby. Holla if you hear me.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can y'all hear me?
Good.
Okay, so what I got out of this, Minister Cole, was a new understanding of the breaking of the bread for myself. And my wife wants you to know that this is the first Bible study that she's ever paid attention enough to listen and understand. She said, you did the dang thing, Minister Cole.
Okay.
She said, you did the dang thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. I love y'all. We all love y'all. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Minister. Okay, so that Ross, you still there? Yes?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, gotcha, brother. Go for it.
A new understanding of the word light.
Oh,
so that's all I have to say.
Okay, praise God. We love it. He understood the assignment. Okay. I think you beat the assignment. That was like a second. Listen, shout outs to our sister Rose. We love you so much, sis. Cindy, you love and light. Thank you so much for being here with us. And also we see your comments in the chat. So I'm grateful. And family, this is really it. I mean, golly, thank you for allowing me to go through it. It felt like a lot of material, but I get so excited about it. So we went over, I think, just a little bit. We're going to go ahead and close us out, have our pastor say some final words.
Amen. Well, thank you, Minister Cole, for that great lesson. I love several things about your lesson. And I love your excitement about teaching. I love your expressiveness when you are teaching and how you get excited about a concept or a word or an idea or an interpretation that God has given you. So we get to watch you be enlightened as you teach us about being enlightened. And that's pretty incredible. That's amazing. And that's good teaching. And I really appreciate that. And you got a lot of good feedback already, a lot of good takeaways already. So I don't need to add to it, but I do want to say thank you to you. And thank you to everyone for your participation, for your responses, for your engagement in this class as well. This is your class. And you did a good job with it tonight, all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, family. So I'm just going to stop the share here. Just bear with me. And certainly we're going to close out. For those of you who are watching us, again, I already invited you to come back. We look forward to seeing you. And